Imagine yourself faced with an ancient secret, a mystery that has spanned centuries. An enigma so profound that few have dared to question it, let alone unravel it. Now, close your eyes for a moment and let your mind wander through the hidden passages of history. There are secrets hidden in the dimensions of Solomon's temple that few dare to investigate. This is the starting point. We are not just talking about a monumental building, grand in its architecture, but something much greater. And you are about to embark on a journey that goes beyond known history, where the stone walls hide a code, a divine enigma that few have the courage to explore. This code, seemingly harmless, may contain spiritual truths that would change our understanding of the world forever. But tell me, have you ever wondered? Yes, have you ever wondered what the greatest scholars avoid discussing? The sacred books are full of details, carefully inserted like pieces of a celestial puzzle. The dimensions of Solomon's temple, its columns, its walls, its secret rooms, what do these measurements really mean? You and I, together, will explore this mystery. And, at the end of this journey, the answers we will find will be, to say the least, surprising. Today, I invite you to look beyond the obvious, to allow yourself to question what is between the lines. Solomon's temple, so sacred, holds secrets that can change the way you see history, faith, and even your own life. Hold on tight, because this is only the beginning. And what is to come will challenge your perception of what is real. Are you ready? The ancient scriptures lie before us, like a map hidden in plain sight. To understand the secrets of Solomon's temple, we need to delve into the deepest pages of the Bible, where subtle details reveal more than they appear. In 1 Kings 6 verse 2, we read, "The house that King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high." Yes, these are simple numbers, right? But what many people don't realize is that these numbers are not there by chance. Let's go a little further, connecting these measurements to what is behind them. In Isaiah 14, we find mention of Lucifer, the bearer of light, the one who fell from grace. Now, think about it. Why would a temple, dedicated to the highest heaven, have specific measurements that some scholars claim are linked to Lucifer's fall? Strange, don't you think? Few realize it, but these passages, Isaiah 14 verse 12 and Ezekiel 28, are full of symbolism that transcends common narratives. They say that Lucifer's fall was not just an act of pride, but a true battle for control of creation. An event that shook not only heaven but also the earth, and that is somehow encoded in the dimensions of the temple. The first revelation that few realize, the measurements of the temple may have been designed to reflect the harmony lost with the fall of Lucifer. Each cubit, each width, a mirror of the spiritual dimensions ruptured at the moment of rebellion. As if the proportions of the temple were trying to balance a cosmic scale, to restore what was broken when Lucifer fell. The connection is there, subtle, hidden, waiting to be discovered. Are you beginning to see the connection? Solomon's temple and the fall of Lucifer, two pieces of a puzzle that few have dared to put together. But we are only at the beginning. This is just the first glimpse of a greater mystery. Want to know more? Let's continue, because what comes next will deepen this enigma even further. So far, we have explored the measurements of Solomon's temple as a reflection of Lucifer's fall, but what few people understand is that Lucifer's true power was not destroyed by his fall. That's right, the story you know is incomplete. What if I told you that when he fell, he left something behind, something that has survived the ages and the ages, hidden in the deepest symbols? A fragment of power, something that still influences the world in ways we can barely imagine. Now think about it. These measurements, these proportions, may be a key not only to understanding what was lost in the past, but to understanding what is still present among us. Solomon's temple, with its precise dimensions, is not just a tribute to divine glory, it may be the map to something more. Something that Lucifer, in his fall, wanted to keep accessible, but in coded form. If this is true, then what we thought was just a sacred building becomes an enigma, a door to another reality, where spiritual forces are still at play. Where the balance between light and darkness is not resolved, but continues to unfold in our lives, day after day. And here, between these columns and cubits, there are clues that this struggle is not over. The twist that many did not expect: Lucifer, even fallen, still acts throughout the centuries, and Solomon's temple is proof of this. Its measurements contain a hidden formula, not of destruction, but of control. Not of ruin, but of influence over the physical and spiritual world. The doors of the temple do not lead only to a distant past. They open to the now, to the present. The forces that it represented, those that we thought were buried in time, still act, still manipulate, still try to shape our destiny. And the question that remains is, are we prepared to deal with what these dimensions really mean? What seemed to be just history, what seemed like a definitive fall, in fact, may be the beginning of a struggle that continues to this day. Now that you've begun to understand that Solomon's temple is much more than just a simple building, let's dive even deeper. To do this, we need to go back to the scriptures, but not to the verses that everyone knows and quotes. No. We need to look at those that remain in the shadows, forgotten or simply ignored. In 1 Chronicles 28 verse 19, David says, "All this, David said, was given to me in writing by the hand of the Lord, even all the work of this plan." This verse goes unnoticed by most, but think about it. David is saying that the instructions for the temple were given directly by God. Every detail, every measurement, every proportion, all came from a divine source. What does this mean? That the temple was not just built by human hands, but guided by a heavenly intelligence, or perhaps something more. Now, take a close look at what is revealed in the less explored passages. In Ezekiel 40, there is an enigmatic description of a future temple whose dimensions seem to echo those of Solomon's temple, but with one disturbing detail: these dimensions are not just architectural, they are symbols of something that transcends time and space. A structure that, some say, points to a cosmic event that is yet to happen. The second revelation that many overlook is this: the dimensions of Solomon's temple are directly connected to the fallen angels and the balance between heaven and earth. There are suggestions, by occult scholars and theologians, that the temple was designed as a way to contain or perhaps even communicate with fallen spiritual forces. Like an antenna, it perfectly aligns with events of the past and the future. But here's the real question: if the dimensions of the temple were a key to this communication, what does that mean for modern events? What happened back then, with the fall of Lucifer, may not be over. Many believe that fallen angels still influence our world, moving silently behind the scenes of history. What you are beginning to see, little by little, is that the forces that were at work millennia ago have not disappeared. They have adapted, they have hidden themselves, and somehow, Solomon's temple holds the secrets of how they continue to operate today. These revelations are not just theory or speculation. They are fragments hidden in the scriptures, waiting to be deciphered. And now that you know them, the mystery only deepens. Now that we understand that Solomon's temple may have been a key to something greater, we need to look at history with new eyes. The history you know, wars, empires, revolutions, what if all of this was not just the result of chance? What if behind all these great events, there was an unseen force at work? You see, when we talk about spiritual forces, it's easy to imagine something distant and abstract. But evil, true evil, it's concrete, tangible. It has a name, an identity, and a purpose. Lucifer. We're not just talking about an entity lost in the past, but a presence that moves silently through the ages, influencing kings, rulers, and nations. You've heard of the great wars, the empires that fell, the revolutions that changed the world, but few make the connection between these catastrophes and the spiritual forces that may have been behind each of them. Wars are not just battles for territory, they are also spiritual battlefields. And that's where Solomon's temple comes in. You see, the temple was built in a time of peace, but its history is full of dark influences that soon emerged. The divisions of the kingdom of Israel, the exiles, the invasions, were these ruptures simply the result of political and military action? Or has the influence of those who fell with Lucifer continued to infiltrate the events of humanity, using the temple as a symbol of spiritual power? The evil that lurks in the shadows is not just a mystical force. It has a face. It has followers. And it is among us. Think of the great tragedies of humanity, the world wars, the rise and fall of empires, There has always been a power behind them, an unseen manipulation that few dare consider. What if Solomon's temple, with its hidden measures, was somehow connected to this influence? Imagine this: Lucifer and his followers, fallen but never destroyed. They move among us, manipulating the leaders of the world, influencing events that have changed the course of history. Each revolution, each conflict, a piece in a cosmic game to regain lost power. And the temple? The temple would be the symbol of this struggle. Its measures would be a reminder of the forces that try to balance this power, back and forth, always seeking control. Evil is not just a distant idea. It has a name. It has a purpose. And it hides in the details that many do not see, but that are right there, in front of us, in the measurements of the temple and in the events that shape our history. Now, think for a moment. What if these invisible forces that shaped empires and caused wars were not just out there in the past, but acting directly in your life? What if the same hidden power that hovered over the great tragedies of history was, right now, all around you? Here is the third revelation: Lucifer and his followers are not interested only in controlling nations or kings, they are interested in controlling each and every one of us. And what many do not realize is that the forces that operated in Solomon's temple, the same ones that influenced historical events, continue to influence our daily choices. Yes, our decisions, our thoughts, our actions, are not as free as we imagine. There is a plan in motion, something much bigger than what the eyes can see. The true goal of these forces is not simply physical destruction, but spiritual control. And Solomon's temple, with its dimensions, is a fundamental piece of this puzzle. Every cubit, every wall, every hidden measurement may be a reflection of an invisible structure that acts in our lives. Perhaps, without you realizing it, these forces have shaped your decisions in subtle, invisible ways. The forces that fell with Lucifer, those who rebelled against the heavenly order, still seek to influence your destiny. Every day, we are bombarded with choices, situations, and challenges that may be the continuation of this invisible battle. Now, you begin to ask yourself, how could these invisible influences be shaping my life? Could the conflicts we face in our daily lives, the internal struggles, the doubts, the crises, be simply the result of chance? Or could it be that, in some way, these hidden energies are testing us, manipulating us, leading us astray? This is the true depth of the mystery of the temple. It is not just an ancient building. It is not just history. It is a reflection of the forces that are in constant motion, trying to shape not only the world, but each of us. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is, how have these forces affected your own life? And how can you protect yourself from them? Because just as the temple housed the power of God, it also held the secrets of a much greater spiritual battle that continues to this day, a battle that now involves your own soul. And then you begin to wonder, what about those who have already sensed this invisible battle? What happens to them? There are stories, many of them, of people who have faced these hidden forces head-on and fought battles that go beyond common comprehension. And the scars that these battles leave are not physical, but spiritual. Imagine the despair of someone who, without knowing it, finds themselves in the middle of this silent war. Many have faced inexplicable crises, moments of profound despair, where chaos seems to have taken over their lives. But in some of these stories, a pattern begins to emerge, a pattern of spiritual influences that shape decisions, corrupt relationships, and generate internal conflicts that no one can fully understand. Take, for example, the story of Anna, a woman who seemed to have everything in order, a happy family, a promising career, a stable life. Until, suddenly, everything began to fall apart. Loss after loss, as if an invisible shadow were consuming everything around her. Anna describes how, in her darkest moments, she felt a strange presence, something she could not see but that was there, influencing her life in ways she did not understand. But Anna was not alone. Joao, another example, recounted how his decisions, big and small, always seemed to lead him astray, as if something were pushing him toward destruction. He tried to ignore it, rationalize it, believe that it was all just coincidence. But the force was real. And it worked silently, manipulating his choices. It was only when he began to investigate more deeply that he realized he was fighting a spiritual battle and did not know it. These are real stories of people who faced what many of us ignore. And from the moment they became aware of it, they began to fight. But the question that remains is, what about you? What is your role in this battle? Now is the time for deep reflection. Look around you, see your life, your choices, your moments of crisis. Are these invisible forces also shaping your path? Think about the moments of doubt, despair, difficult decisions. Could it be that, without you realizing it, the same power that operated in Solomon's temple was also present, testing your faith, diverting your steps? This is not superstition. This is a spiritual reality that many have faced. And now, knowing this, there is no turning back. You have been invited to see what was hidden. The invisible battle is not just about angels and demons in the distant past, it is about you, here and now. Do you feel it? The tension that has built up throughout this journey. Each revelation has brought a new layer of mystery, a new piece of this spiritual puzzle. Now we are about to reach the most crucial point, the climax of this story that has been weaving a web of hidden truths around us from the beginning. The great revelation you need to understand now is this: the real battle is not far away, somewhere between heaven and hell, or in some uncertain future. It is happening here, now, all around you. Everything we have discussed, the unseen forces, the subtle influences, the spiritual energies connected to Solomon's temple, is in motion right now. What many believe to be just a metaphor or an abstract concept is, in fact, an ongoing war, an ongoing struggle for the human soul. Each of us is on the battlefield. The decisions we make, the influences we feel, the daily pressures that seem harmless, all are part of this invisible war. And just as in Solomon's temple, the spiritual balance is precarious. Lucifer, fallen but not destroyed, continues to influence. Not with brute force, but with manipulation, distraction, and confusion. And if you are not paying attention, you may not even realize that you are in the middle of this struggle. The great revelation that many are not ready to accept: you are part of this battle, whether you like it or not. The spiritual forces that Solomon's temple represented, the balance between the divine and the profane, continue to manifest themselves in our daily lives. And this war, which seemed distant in time, is now unfolding in our homes, in our minds, and even in our hearts. The question is no longer whether you believe or not. The question now is, how will you act? Because just as the temple was an attempt to bring order to spiritual chaos, so too do you have the power to balance the forces around you. To choose the path of light, of spiritual protection, to resist the influences that would steer you away from your purpose. This is the truth hidden in the temple. The code and its measurements was not just an architectural expression, it was a reflection of the cosmic battle that is still unfolding. And now, you are in the middle of it. The revelation is this: the battlefield is not just an ancient temple, it is you. Now, here we are. We have reached the decisive moment, the conclusion of this journey that began with a physical building but has taken us into deep spiritual territory. And what you have discovered so far has changed the way you see Solomon's temple, and perhaps even the way you see yourself. But here's the crucial point: the temple was never just a stone structure. It was a physical reflection of a much more complex spiritual reality. A place where the divine and the profane met, where the balance between cosmic forces was maintained, however tenuously. The measurements we have studied, the hidden revelations, all point to a deeper truth, one that goes beyond what can be measured in meters or cubits. Ephesians 6 verse 12 says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." This is happening now. The real battle is not on battlefields, but in the spiritual realm, around us and within us. The temple was a physical manifestation of this battle, but you are the real battlefield. The question that remains now is simple but powerful: what will you do with this knowledge? This is the time to act. The knowledge you have gained here is not just a historical curiosity, nor is it an abstract reflection. It is a call to action. Because now that you see what is at stake, that invisible forces are all around you, trying to influence your choices, manipulate your thoughts and decisions. You need to make a conscious decision. You can protect yourself. You can balance the forces around you. You can arm yourself spiritually, as Paul teaches us in Ephesians, by putting on the armor of God, truth, righteousness, faith, salvation. Don't let these invisible forces continue to shape your life without resistance. Now that you see them, you can begin to confront them. Solomon's temple, with its secrets and hidden codes, shows us that there is much more than meets the eye. And you, with the revelations you have received, are now equipped to consciously participate in this battle. So I ask you, how will you prepare for this fight? How will you protect your soul from these invisible influences? Because the time to act is now. You are part of this story. The battle is not in the distant future. It is here, in the present, all around you, and now you know it. The choice is yours. You can either stand up to these forces, or allow them to continue to act without you noticing. The final message is one of hope. You are not alone. There are forces on your side too, ready to guide you, strengthen you, and protect you. You just have to choose the right side.